Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's album review is Alan Parsons Project, Vulture Culture, 1985. This is the band's eighth album. I think their first album was 1975, I think it was, or 76. And these are the difficult times. A lot of prog rock bands, and I use the term loosely inside of Alan Parsons Project because I don't feel that they're really a prog rock band. But any band that was around before like '77 had a really hard time, uh, you know, getting through the times of the '80s and even the mid '80s. There's some really tough sounding uh, band albums from in the middle '80s that were around in the middle '70s, the late '70s. It's just interesting. I mean, the I guess probably it's just a combination of bad producing, not knowing how to use newer equipment, the change of direction and influences in popular music and stuff like that kind of would influence rock music, and sometimes a negative way and sometimes a good way. It's strange that I was reading the other day that, and I'm sure they were just trying to sell the album, the reissue, but like Van Halen's Jump is considered a kind of, wouldn't say revolutionary album, but it's considered important because it was one of the first rock and roll albums to really kind of feature a keyboard in their hook, or a more heavy metal. Although Van Halen's not really heavy metal that much. I mean, hard rock, I guess. But a hard rock album having a keyboard, and I was thinking like, man, for like 30 years it was always considered like, and still is probably mostly considered by hardcore fans of Van Halen to be a trash album, and not considered, especially the title video, this title song Jump and stuff like that. But it's funny how time goes by and people, history starts to look differently at your music. And generally it's for the good. I mean, I don't necessarily, there isn't that many times I would say it's for the bad, unless it's like super cheesy music that was probably cheesy to begin with. But it's strange how, like, even though it was a really good seller, a lot of people frowned upon the direction Van Halen was taking, but now it's, you know, kind of similarly, not in a popularity way, but just as far as like the reason why I brought up that is just because, a band like Alan Parsons Project, is technically prog rock a little bit, and sort of they're evolving into sort of using keyboards and things like that, and for the good and the bad. And this is an album that sort of pretty much stays true to what they are, but there's certainly some discography, excuse me, some music in their discography where it is kind of, it is, I would say, I mean, kind of cheesy. You just have to say it, but for the most part, they stayed pretty true to who they were, but they were certainly influenced to make, after they had the hit with Eye in the Sky in 1982, it was definitely a lot. This was the first album, after Eye in the Sky. So there's definitely some moments on here where they're trying to make an Eye in the Sky or Popular Song Part 2, but that's just kind of the pressures of the record labels in those days, and not feeling like, the artists really could even do what they want. I couldn't remember which band I was reading, but um, I was reading somebody. I can't remember who it was, but they had literally did an album, and the label was like, "No, do it over again." I think it was strange because I was reading like what was like the cheap. Actually, I don't remember who it was. It was it was actually Nelson, and I don't know why I was. I'm trying to remember why I was reading about Nelson. But I think I was kind of not taken back, but not flabbergasted or anything like that. But it's when you look at like Wikipedia and you see the critical reception overview of certain bands and certain albums, and then some will go as far to have like a legacy, and it tells about the importance of that album or the importance of that band, thing like that. I can't remember which one I was reading, but I was like, I was really surprised that there was nothing that had anything about, even I think it was even like John Foxx's record. Like there was nothing in Wikipedia about how the legacy of the album or the importance of the album. When I know for a fact it's actually fairly widely known that the certain album was. I don't think it was John Foxx, but the the place it takes in history as far as what it inspired and stuff like that. And there was no mention of it in Wikipedia, and I was thinking, wow, I mean, I've read so many albums that have like a critical reception and talks about the reviews of the album and the legacy of the album, and the influence of the album in Wikipedia under other albums, and case in point, like Jump by Van Halen. But I was just really surprised that, and then I was like, even Nelson, I went to Nelson, I was like, do they even have one? And yeah, there's actually didn't. But then I actually read that their second album, did their second album, and then it was too dark, and the record label was just like, no, do another whole album. So they didn't. They've ended up doing another album, and it took almost 3 years, and they didn't come out with a follow-up album to a record that sold 3 million copies in 1990. They didn't get a second record out till 1995, and it was just because the label said it wasn't what they wanted, and it was too dark of an album. You can't imagine those days when you just do an album and the label be like, no, no, go do another record. Like, it's just wow. So I don't know why I fully brought that up, but something like Vulture Culture, there's a lot of good songs on it, but it's just the pressures to make hits after you make a hit is just it's just so it must have been so stressful for a lot of these bands in the 80s, especially, to make another hit. It's just like, I mean, wow, the record labels just, no, no, that's not a hit, that's not a hit. No, okay, what other song you got? Oh, okay, that'll be a hit. Okay, we'll push that record. And you're just like, wow, like that's all you're used up for. They just use the artist in such a way where they're just like, must have been really a lot of pressure to write hits for some bands, or once you write a hit. So I feel like, Alan Parsons Project, I know with hardcore fans, like, the few of the albums after Eye in the Sky are kind of like eyesores for the band. And after they had a hit with Eye in the Sky, like there's a lot of trying to make that second hit. And this album has a little bit of that. Ammonia has a little bit of that. Godry has, is it Gaudy has a little bit of that. I mean, all of the follow-up albums have that. Psychobabble. All four of the albums after, I think it's 4 albums, or 3 or 4, because this is '85. So maybe it was just 2. Maybe there's just 2 albums. I guess Ammonia is maybe before that one, but this is their 8th album in total, and so, but they're still like really pressured to make a hit after Eye in the Sky. Eye in the Sky, I was reading that single actually sold 1 million copies by itself, just the single. So a huge seller worldwide. So yeah, I'm gonna review this album, go over the songs, and then yeah, give an overview of the album and rate the album. So this album came out in 1985. There's 8 tracks on here. The first track is "Let's Talk About Me." I like the piano. The vocals are good. Solid chorus. Nice layered vocals. The guitar solo is pretty strong. Which sometimes I'm kind of very picky about guitar solos from a rock band, and this one works pretty well. I gave the overall rating for this track 2.25 stars. So good track. Track 2, I really like this song. It looks like it's my favorite on the album. This kind of feels like a Eye in the Sky Part 2. And even Days Are Numbered, the next song, feels a little bit like that too. I mean, they're really trying to make some hits on this album. and some popular songs, you can really tell. But I think they're talented enough so they pulled it off, and they still become good songs. They're just, you're. I said one of my notes in here was you're entering the cornfield with Alan Parsons Project, and just kind of joking around saying that you're in the cornfield, you're gonna find some corny songs in here. You're entering the cornfield when you listen to Alan Parsons Project, but I kind of like it. It kind of has like I don't know why Alan Parsons Project reminds me of like. I mean, I loved Eye in the Sky when I was a kid when it came out. It just kind of reminds me of like going to like a lot of their albums and their productions sound like going to like a medieval party at school or something like that. It kind of has like this AM kind of corny, cheesy, melodic, but there is some deepness there, which I appreciate, and that's the reason why I like them. Is I like Alan Parsons Project. I mean, I like Alan Parsons' voice, and I like that they're a little deep and a little bit progressive. They write some instrumentals on their albums, but having said that, the kind of cheesy attempts at making a hit just kind of increased after Eye in the Sky, and this album is kind of the example. But Separate Lives, I really like the vocals. Some nice percussion sounds. Sounds like a drum machine, in there, and combined with the drummer. I'm not sure if that's true, but it's got a really nice chorus as well. I got 3.5 stars. I really like the track. It's one of my favorite Alan Parsons Project songs. Days Are Numbered, The Traveler. It's track number 3. Nice harmony, good lyrics, well sung, a little corny, but it's good. Good layering, good layered singing. I really like the track. I got 3 stars. It's my second favorite on the album. And then track number 4, Sooner or Later. This is kind of the textbook, kind of Alan Parsons Project sound. Pretty straightforward, some nice harmonies for sure. It's a good track. I got 2.5 stars. And then the title track starts the second side. It kind of tries to be hip or tries to be clever with the lyrics, and sometimes Alan Parsons Projects, the lyrics can be really cheesy. Like, if like some of, you even look at like some of the titles of some of the songs, like in their history is just, like on this album, Let's Talk About Me, like, Vulture Culture, or, you know what I mean? It's just Sooner or Later. Like some of the titles on Alan Parsons Project are kind of corny, but a lot of times that's what they say in the chorus, and and that's why, and also the chorus, the choruses can be kind of corny. But I really like the. I mean, it's still Vulture Culture is still a very musical track. It grows on you, but it is a little bit cheesy. But it's a good track. I still got it 2 stars. Hawkeye, like most Alan Parsons Project, there's an instrumental or two on there. Hawkeye is the instrumental for this album. It's okay. It sounds like a keyboard demo. Like if you bought a keyboard or you're at the store and you're at Guitar Center and you play the keyboard demo, it kind of sounds like Hawkeye. There's really nothing special about it, or nothing great about it. I got a star and a quarter. Somebody out there is. It sounds like a montage from Scarface. Like that one song, like in Scarface, the "Give It a Little," and they do all the cocaine montage stuff. Like "Give It a Little," it's just like, or what's that song for where it's they do the who did that song? I can't remember who did the song, but it's for the arm wrestling song that Sylvester Stallone was in. Like that really cheesy song. Is it hang something, or can't remember what it is, but it's hang tough or something like that. Hang in there. So it's really bad. This sounds like that. It sounds like some kind of montage from some cheesy movie, some '80s cheesy movie. It goes on too long too. Like um, the last 2 minutes actually grow on me a little bit, but it goes on a little bit too long. This song's is a little bit tiring. But I got a star and a half. It's okay. Track number 8's the last track, The Same Old Sun. Also, okay, sort of sounds like the ending to some 80s child movie, like Last Starfighter or something like that. Like, it kind of reminds me of that, like a kind of cheesy sci-fi ending credit song. Just the second half of this album is it's okay to good, okay. But the first half, first four songs are pretty strong. But again, they sort of sound like Eye in the Sky Part 2, most of them on the first side. But, that's Alan Parsons Project for you. You enter the cornfield, you're going to get some corn. The overall good about the album. Again, the first half, Separate Lives, Days Are Numbered, and Sooner or Later. It's a nice carefree album. It's kind of one of those albums you put on, which I also like about Alan Parsons. It's not too serious. It's not too heavy. There's no it's just a very carefree, nice album. They're just a carefree, nice band. You know what I mean? They do things very well in the studio. They're very if you don't know Alan Parsons, like he was involved in Dark Side of the Moon, and he excuse me, fan turned on my computer, as you can hear probably. Alan Parsons Project. Alan Parsons was involved in Dark Side of the Moon and a lot of the production and engineering for Pink Floyd for a few years. So I mean, they know their chops around the studio, and their albums. I wouldn't say they sound great in the '80s, but in the late '70s, like their albums are really strong. When they added some keyboards and stuff, their production got a little thin. But like a lot of their '70s first 4 or 5 albums are very well produced. They're not on the level of like Steely Dan and stuff like that, but they're good sounding albums, real good sounding albums. So again, it's just kind of carefree album, carefree band. Um, Lots of good instruments, you know what I mean? Good production overall. So that's kind of the good of the album. The opportunities are, it's a little short. There's only eight songs. If you're okay with cheesy rock music, this kind of sounds AM and a little bit progressive rock, you'll like the album. Unfortunately, the second half of the album is pretty weak, like I was saying. As far as I tallied up the stars, 17 and a quarter stars divided by 8, so 2.15. So, not a great average, songs, as far as the rating per song, not a fantastic one there. So I got the overall at 54 out of 100. It's in the middle of an okay album. It's an okay album. It's probably not one of their best 4 or 5 albums, but first half of the album is good. I like it. I mean, that's why I bought it. I like the first half. Um, Unfortunately, the second half wasn't good when I originally bought it. Unfortunately, and I don't often play my Alan Parsons Project albums, but occasionally I do, and I got some CDs from them, so I normally play my CDs of theirs more so than my albums. But it's always great to hear great, well produced albums on vinyl. That are from the '70s and '80s, and fidelity wise, it's a good sounding album overall. But yeah, 54 out of 100. So an okay album. Nothing great, nothing horrible. Just a lot of mediocre and a few good tracks. If you're okay with corny rock music, you know. I'm just curious. Do you guys have a favorite Alan Parsons Project? Maybe I'll do that album next. I do need to do another one after this, and if you guys want to recommend one to me, I'll do that one if I haven't by the time you recommend it. All right, thanks so much.